Hi guys, today's video is going to be a 3-look video and I'm going to be using 3 palettes for this because Menagerie has come out with 2 new palettes plus one that's kind of revamped. So we're going to do 1 look with each palette. I'm so excited. I did buy all of these myself. I am usually getting PR from Menagerie and I messaged them and I was like, hey, are you sending these out? And I just didn't get a reply. I assumed they were just super busy. So I just ended up buying them myself, which is totally fine. So we're going to be playing with these. These are so cute. These are a kitty palette and a puppy palette. And like, it doesn't get much better. I'm so excited. So first up, we have the Paws palette, which looks like this. And that is such a cute color story. I really like the combination of the colors in here. I feel like this is probably my favorite color stories out of the 2. And then the next one is the Claws palette, which is the kitty palette, which this one is super cute as well. But I feel like this color story is, I don't know how to say it. I feel like something is missing. Maybe something is in here that shouldn't be in. I don't know. We're gonna play with it. I'll see how I feel once I like start getting them on my eyes. But I feel like it's a little harder to come up with like cohesive looks with this palette over the Paws palette. And of course we have the Killer Purr palette as well, which like I said is the revamped version, so there are some new shades in here. And I'm gonna save this for last, I think, and then we can do some comparisons to the original when I get to that point. But let's start off with the Claws palette because I wanted to get into this. I want to see what I can do with this. I feel like I said, the color story is a little bit, I don't know, there's something about it that just doesn't really make sense to me, so I want to try to make sense of it. And of course I'm filming this on a day where I don't really have a lot of time and I have to go somewhere, but I'll make it work because I don't have a choice. So I'm just priming with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base, and honestly the true test today is if I can get through this video and my shirt is still white, because there's a reason why I never really wear white, because I tend to be very clumsy and I always get things dirty. So I'm gonna try my best to keep this white and hopefully be able to wear this once I'm done with my makeup. And a smart person would just do their makeup first and change after, but I'm not that smart person, so I'm just gambling and hoping for the best. Now let's just take a closer look at this color story. I feel like I don't know what to do with this green. Like I feel like this green just doesn't really make sense in the palette. It's like, yeah, it's a pop of color, but what am I gonna blend that into? What am I gonna do with that? All I have are like 3 pink shimmers, which I also feel like maybe is a bit much. 3 pink shimmers and then like a purpley bluey duochrome, which individually they're all really pretty. This one does seem to have kind of a green shift to it. I haven't swatched it yet because like I said, I'm wearing white today and I do have to go somewhere. So I'm gonna swatch these on a different day, but let me just kind of put my finger into that one. So yeah, it does have a little bit of a green flip. It almost looks like a multi-chrome, but I also don't know what to do with that green. So I'm probably just not going to use the green because like I just don't really know what to do with it, which is sad because it's a beautiful color, but I'm just like, So I think I'm just gonna start with this one in my crease and deepen it up with this one. I know that's kind of boring, but I also feel like with this gray, like what am I gonna do with this gray? Like what is that gonna be blended into except for maybe the brown? And it's like if I use the green and the gray together, they're like the same depth. So that doesn't really work either. I'm just a little, I'm confused. So for me, it's not the perfect color story, but I'm just gonna do something that actually makes sense in my head. So I'm gonna start with the kind of transition-y shade, which is called Meow. And I love the shade names in this palette. One of the shimmers is called Here Kitty Kitty, so I'm definitely gonna use that. So unless you are new to my channel, I am definitely a cat person. We do have a cat and a dog, but I am definitely a cat person. I always have been. I like dogs, but I freaking love cats. So when I saw a kitty palette come out, there was no way I wasn't gonna buy this, even if I knew the color story wasn't going to be perfect for me, because I like cats too much and I just think it's a really, really cute palette. So I'm just gonna use this as my transition shade here. I'm not gonna, like I said, do anything too fancy. I'm just gonna try out these shades in a way that makes sense to me, in a way that I would use this palette, which is just what I'm doing. So we're just gonna do a look and see how the shadows perform. But that is a beautiful transition shade. I really like the color of this. Just gonna wing this color out a little bit because I cannot help myself. I'm also gonna take this shade underneath my eye. This would probably make for a really nice blush too. It might be a little too light for my skin tone, but then again, these are very pigmented, so I'm kind of regretting not trying that because I did already put on blush, but I definitely might try that with one of the other looks because I think this would be a really cute kind of peachy, orangey blush shade. And this is, of course, performing very well because Menagerie is one of my favorite brands. They always have been, and I just think their formula is really, really good, and I've never had any issues with it. And these mattes are just so nice and pigmented and buttery and smooth. And I'm excited to try the shimmers because they look really, really pretty. Switching to a smaller brush, this is my BK Beauty A504. It's probably become my favorite over my Rephr 13. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I just really like the shape and softness of this brush. So I'm obviously taking the dark brown shade here, which is called Furball, which is also just the cutest ever. I'm gonna use that as my deepening shade. I'm just starting it on the outer corner of my eye. I'm gonna see how dark and intense I'm able to get this shade. I don't feel like this shade is as rich as I kind of wanted it to be. I'm almost seeing a little bit of like patchiness on my lid. It's not layering the absolute best, which is a little bit sad because I really wanted this to be like nice and chocolatey deep, and I feel like it's not as deep on the eyes as it is in the pan. And maybe I just didn't tap on my eyeshadow primer properly, and that's why there's a couple of streaks. That could definitely be it, but I am going to layer some shimmers over the top of this. I'm not too worried about it, but it's not laying the absolute best like I kind of was hoping. I'm gonna take a little bit of that underneath my eye as well. Yeah, this really is not layering that well. Like I can barely see it under my eye. It's almost like this feels like a bit of a sheerer formula than what I'm used to from Menagerie. Like I just don't feel like this is, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as pigmented. Like the first shade did, but this one I'm struggling a bit to just get enough color onto my eyes. It definitely doesn't build as much as I was hoping. Like I don't think it looks bad by any means. It's just I was hoping for just a little bit more. Maybe with the other palettes I will go in with the darkest shade first and try that way instead, because I'm not, I don't feel like I'm getting the result I'm looking for here. So I'm just gonna call this good because I just don't feel like fussing with it anymore. I'm gonna put on some of my NYX glitter primer and we'll do some of these shimmers, which they look so beautiful. I'm gonna put the glitter primer like over the outer corner here as well, because like I said, I do feel like it's a little bit patchy, so I just want to make sure that I can cover that up with a shimmer, and then maybe it'll be easier to layer the matte back over the top of the shimmer, but we'll see what happens. I think I'm gonna use these two shades on my eyes. I'm gonna start with this one. This one is called here Kitty Kitty. This has to be my favorite in this palette. It looks so pretty. It looks to be kind of a sheer formula. Like I said, normally I would swatch things before using them, so I have a bit of a better idea of what to expect, but I didn't do that. But oh man, that is really pretty. It's definitely sheer, but honestly, I like that because this is gonna do exactly what I wanted to. Oh, that is so pretty. Oh, I love that. I'm pretty much putting this all over the outer corner of my eye, and because it is sheer, you can still see that it's deeper on the outer part, and I really like that. I love this shade. It is beautiful. So for the inner corner, I'm gonna take the shade called Formidable. I love that name as well. This is definitely like an iridescent pink shade, and I'm gonna put that just on the front portion of my lid here. So this one is not as metallic and as shiny. It's almost a bit like satiny. It's more of a dry formula. I can definitely tell that. I do think this would be a beautiful face highlighter though, so I think I'm gonna try that as well because I can see this formula working really nicely for that. I think the color is really pretty, but I wish it had a little more oomph and sparkle to it. Like, I do think this look is very pretty. I just want a little bit more oomph in my shadows. Just gonna go back in with the other shimmer, layer that back over, get a good blend. And then I'm gonna take a bit more of the matte and just try to go back over the outer corner. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit more depth by layering it back over the purple shade, but still not as deep as I kind of wish that this was. I'm super curious now to try the revamped Killer Purr palette again, because that one has a lot of neutral shades as well, and I want to see if those browns are the same, because it's been so long since I used the original Killer Purr that I don't remember how I feel about it. So now that I am a little bit more into neutrals and I'm a little bit more critical of them, I guess you could say, I'm just curious to see like what they're gonna look like. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up. I'm gonna do something in my waterline, probably just a nude, and then put on some lashes, and I'll come back and we can try that shade as a face highlighter. So my lashes are on. I'm using the Divine Lights still from House of Lashes. I did open a new pair. I feel like this is the first time that my application with these lashes, this lash style isn't perfect, but it's probably because it's the first time I'm wearing them and I need to kind of wear them in a little bit. So let's go ahead and see if I can use the shade as my face highlighter. I'm gonna take a big kind of fluffy brush. This is a prototype from Rephr. It's the 09. I don't think it actually exists, but I like using it as a highlighting brush. So just gonna take this shade on here and we're gonna see if, oh yeah, that's beautiful. Can definitely use that as a face highlighter. Oh, I actually like that as a face highlighter way more than I do an eyeshadow. That is really, really pretty. Yeah, that is so, so smooth. Ooh, I may have just found my new favorite pink highlighter. Look how pretty that is. I love that. I'm just gonna do a little bit on my nose as well. And also the tiniest amount is on my brow bone. Yeah, that is so beautiful. I really like this. I think I'm gonna use just a little bit of the shade right underneath my eye as well, because I don't really have an inner corner highlight, so I'm just gonna use that right here. And I think that's gonna be the look. I really like it. I think it's very pretty. But like I said in the beginning, I just feel like the color story is a bit weird, and there's definitely a couple of shades in here that I just don't see myself using. So for me, the palette is basically like this. Because I'm just like, I don't know what to do with these. Like, I could probably use them together, but I don't want to pair any of these colors with these shimmers. I think that's where my issue is. Like, I could maybe do like the gray and the brown in my crease, but I also don't feel like the brown would be deep enough to be able to deepen this up very well. Yeah, I don't really know. It's not my favorite Menagerie palette. I do like some of the shades. I think they're really pretty and I really like the look. I think that the shimmer up here is absolutely stunning. So I'm not like upset that I picked it up, but if I could have changed a couple of things about this palette, I definitely would. So that's gonna be my thoughts on the Claws palette. I think next we're gonna go ahead and do a look with the Paws palette as well, which I think I'm a little bit more excited about this color story. And now I'm very curious to try this brown, but I also don't know if I should try this brown because I just used a brown in this look, but I don't know. We'll see when I end up doing the next look. I did end up using the shade Meow as my blush today, which I think looks beautiful from this palette. I really like this. I'm not sure the blush is going to end up going with the look that I plan on doing with the Paws palette though, but we'll see what happens. So I sort of have an idea in mind for what I want to do, and I think I'm going to start with using this blue as a bit of a wing. I am going to sort of do like my winged shape, but I am going to do a little bit of blending with these other shades, but I really just want to get the shape of this down first so that I don't pull the other shades out too far. So I'm just going to take that on a small kind of flat brush like this. I like these for doing my winged out shapes with, and I'm gonna just stamp this where it is that I want my wing shape to go. I'm gonna start it a little bit lower down than I normally would so that I can connect some shades underneath my eye as well and have it look like it connects. So that is a beautiful, beautiful color. It's a really unique sort of tealy blue shades, and I don't think I have a lot of shades similar to this in my collection. I really like the undertone of this color. So now that I have the shape down, I'm just gonna go in with a small pencil brush and just fill in the outer triangle here. And then we're gonna start with the crease colors. I do think I wanna use probably the yellow and the green to kind of blend into this blue, because those are definitely going to blend nicely in together. And then we're going to use probably 3 shimmers on my lid if I had to guess. I do feel like this shade is pulling a little bit more warm toned on my skin, probably because the undertone of my eyeshadow primer than what it looks like in the pan, because in the pan it looks a lot more cool tone. So just something to keep in mind if you wanted to look true to what it actually is in the pan. You can probably tell. I feel like it's looking a little bit more warm tone. It could just be me though, but I do really like how it looks on the eyes. I'm gonna just take a little bit more of this, just pull this a little bit higher up, just to kind of even them out. I don't need them to be perfect, but I do want them to be somewhat even. Okay, that's about as even as I can be bothered trying to make it. I'm gonna switch to a clean, it doesn't look clean, it is clean, it's just stained Rephr 13, and I'm gonna dip that into the shade called Pupper, which is the yellow, which this looks to be more of a green based yellow. So this is definitely gonna blend very nicely into the green that I'm gonna have in the middle here. I'm just gonna pack this on and try to get this as yellow and bright as possible. That is such a nice shade of yellow, and it seems to be very, very nice and pigmented as well. I'm gonna leave just a little bit of room, like right in between here where I am going to put the green matte. Okay, so next I'm gonna take the green, which is called Lapdog, which is this green matte, and I'm just gonna plop that pretty much in the middle here in my crease where I don't have any color yet. I'm gonna blend it into the blue shade as well as the yellow shade and just try to get a good gradient between all of them. I do want this to still be like graphic just on the very outer part, but I do want my crease to have more of a blend than I normally do when I do these kind of eye looks. So I do like how that looks. I'm gonna go back in again with the yellow after I'm done with the green, just to pull that over a little bit and make sure that everything is nice and blended everywhere. But so far, so good. I do feel like the mattes are a little bit on the thinner side, and I probably wouldn't want to build more than 2 colors on top of each other with these palettes, but again, I can't really say because I haven't tried it, but just from my experience with the first one, this seems to be the same matte formulas in both palettes. Just wiping off my brush, and I'm going back in with the yellow shade, and I'm just gonna go over the blend between the two here and make sure that they are nice and blended together before I go in with any shimmers. I think I'm pretty happy with this. I can always go in and finesse more after. Next, I'm gonna put on some of my NYX glitter primer, and I think I'm probably gonna use all 3 of the shimmers that are kind of gonna go with this look, because I just want to see what the formulas are like and all of that. And I'm sure I'm gonna end up liking this look, because honestly, yellow, green, and blue is one of my favorite color combination of eyeshadows of all time. I just really enjoy those 3 kind of put together. So I'm gonna start with, I guess the darkest shade in here would be the blue, maybe even the green, but I'm gonna start with the blue since I have the blue on the outer corner. And I'm gonna pick that up with the MAC 242 brush. This is a shade called Good Boy. And I'm gonna take that on the outer third of my lid. I'm gonna leave room to make sure that I can do the green in the middle. Oh, that is so pretty. That is really, really beautiful. Very metallic, very pigmented, very sparkly. Also very, very smooth. I'm just gonna kind of blend that into my wing. I don't really care if my wing becomes a little bit metallic here. That would kind of be cool, honestly. So I'm just gonna tap this all over. The one thing I will say with Menagerie in general, just like their color stories, I feel like there's never really a lot of light shimmers. There's always a lot of mid-toned to shimmers leaning more dark, and I would like for there to be maybe some more iridescent shades or something like that that could be used for inner corner shades. Just like some lighter shimmers. Like obviously there's one in here, but these are kind of dark, and I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of like super dark shimmers, even though they are beautiful. It's just not really what I reach for, because this is also a black based shadow. So I'm gonna put that in the middle of my lid here. Again, making sure that I leave enough room in the front that I can blend that light green shimmer over the top, and I'm just gonna kind of merge these two in together. Like these are really, really pretty shimmers. I just wish they were a little bit maybe lighter or just not black based, but that is of course just personal preference. But I do think they work very nicely with this color story, and they would also make for really, really nice smoky eyes. Since they are like mattes and shimmers that correspond with each other, you could easily just do like the green and the crease with the green shimmer all over the lid, and that would be a really, really fun, cool look. But I just wish it was something a little bit lighter maybe. So I'm gonna take the shade which is the lightest of the shimmers. This one looks more like a satin shade in the pan. It reminds me of the one in the Claws palette, which was the Formidable shade, which was this lighter shade. These seem to be the same formula, just from kind of looking at them in the pan, so I'm not expecting this to be super metallic at all. I think it's more just going to be like a light green sort of satiny shimmer, and that's pretty much what I'm getting on the eyes too. I do wish that this one also was a little bit more, just had a little bit more oomph to it. Like the color is really nice, but I would have liked just maybe some, you know, little glitter particles, not like actual glitters, but just a little bit more to just amp this up. But it is very, very pretty, and it goes really nicely with the other shimmers in here. I know I'm covering up a lot of that yellow, but sometimes that just happens because I put my shimmers up too high and I can't help myself, because I like shimmers way more than I like mattes, and I really only use mattes to like shape out my eye, I guess I would say. And then I definitely use the shimmers more as the star of the show in all of my looks, because that is what I prefer. So like, I'm not gonna deny that I love how this looks. Like, this is looking so cool. I really like this. Let's see. What am I gonna do underneath my eye? Should I just go ahead and do the same that I did in my crease? I'm gonna, maybe I'll do these two instead. I kind of want to use this blue as well. I know I'm not using the warm tones in here and like the brown, but I'm using all the other shades, and I just feel like I just want to do like a cohesive look. So I'm gonna start with this shade right here again, and I'm just gonna take that on the outer portion of my lower lash line. I'm not gonna blow this out a lot. I'm just gonna keep it very close to my lash line and just make sure that I meet it up with the wing that I have on the outer corner here. I'm taking a bit of the lighter blue matte as well. I'm just gonna put that right here. Like, these two colors together are so pretty. I'm sure you could do an amazing all blue look with this palette, and I kind of wish I did that now because these are looking amazing together. These would make for such a beautiful crease. But I think this is all I'm gonna do with the shadows. I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off real quick. I'll probably do an inner corner highlight and pop a little bit of a highlighter over the top of this blue. I'm just gonna use my Noctilucent palette from Blend Bunny, and I'll come back when my lashes are on and I will show you my final look. And here is how the completed look is looking. I really like this look. For my lashes today, I'm using the half lashes from the Style Clouded from Auric. I really like these. I think they complement the look. I don't think they take away from it, but they just add a little bit of extra flair. These are half lashes, like I said, and I think they're really nice. Let's see. My thoughts on this palette is that I feel like this color story is a little bit more versatile than the other one, and so far I think I like this one more. I think that the formulas are pretty much the same. I think the shimmers are beautiful. I wish this one was a little bit more punched up. Like you can see, I did add some of the Noctilucent highlighting palette over the top of the front here, and I feel like that really added that extra little oomph that I felt like I needed. I also did the same underneath my eye, and I used the green shade in the Noctilucent palette as well underneath my brow bone, and I feel like that kind of made the look come together in a way that I prefer my looks to. And I know this isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to have like shimmer and sparkle everywhere, but that's just the life that I'm living. So for me, I feel like it was lacking a little bit of just extra something, but I do think it's really, really cute, and I love the packaging on these. Honestly, that is the main reason why I bought these, because I mean, how can you not, right? I mean, you look at these and you're like, aw, like I just want to use those. And that's how I feel about them. Like, even if the color stories maybe aren't what I would have chosen these to be, I still want to play with them because I love the packaging so much. And I also just think that the looks that I've done with these palettes have been really, really fun. So I think if you get these palettes, I don't think you'll be disappointed. But I'm really, really excited to be playing with the Killer Purr palette. Honestly, like I probably said in the beginning of the video too, I think I'm more excited to play with this one than the other two. Like there's something about this color story to me now that speaks to me so much more than it used to, even though this has been changed up a little bit and all of the shimmers are different in the new version. I'm pretty sure all of them are. At least that's what it looks like. So I'm excited. I think I'm gonna do something with like these two shimmers on my lid and maybe like some neutrals in my crease. I don't know, but I'm excited to play with this. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do next. Now let's go ahead and do a look with the new Killer Purr palette. And I should probably say this just before I like start doing my look, because I just swatched all of these palettes. And one thing that dawned on me right now is that when I did my looks with the first two, the shadows didn't stain my eyes. And that is very common for me with Menagerie eyeshadows. Really all of their palettes in the past have stained pretty badly, even the collab palette that I did with them. So I don't know if that is why I feel like the formulas are a little bit different in these palettes. And I also just felt like they didn't swatch as good as I remember Menagerie shadows swatching. This shimmer swatched beautifully, except for the iridescent shade in the cat palette. This one didn't swatch very well at all. It's very, very dry, but other than that, the shimmer swatched beautifully, but the matte swatched kind of thinly, like more thin than I'm used to Menagerie swatching. And I did feel like the Killer Purr palette, the new one, this one swatched better than the other two. And I don't know if it has something to do with the pressing. Maybe the square pans are pressed differently than the round pans. I don't know. I don't make eyeshadows, but I felt like this palette swatched better, especially the mattes. So we're just gonna go ahead and put them on the eyes and kind of see what they're like. So I'll show you a side-by-side with the new palette and the old palette so you can see kind of what has changed in them. And it's mostly the shimmers that have been switched out, but also some of the mattes are a little bit different in tone. And I think that they did a really good job with the new version. I really like the ones that they decided to keep in, and I like the inclusions of the blues and the greens and the kind of pinky tone shimmer. I think it's really, really pretty. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I think that I want this shade as well as this shade to be like the stars of the show, and I feel like with this shade it's gonna look the best if I do maybe like the teal and this one in my crease. Like I could go with the neutral wrap, but I really feel like I'm going to be drawn to this palette to use outside of filming for the neutrals. So I don't want to just do like a mostly neutral look with the neutral mattes in this. So I'm gonna start with this shade, and we're gonna deepen it up with this and kind of see how that goes. I want to see if this one is very layerable. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. I'm gonna take my Rephr, I guess this is the 14, yeah, 14. Into the shade Watering Hole, which used to be one of my favorite shades in this palette. I obviously have not used this in a very, very long time because it is quite an old palette, and I think I almost decluttered this one, the old version, in my last declutter, but now I'm really happy I didn't, because now I can compare the two, and I'm glad I decided to keep it around. Because it just wasn't a palette that I was reaching for, mainly because number one, I wasn't really into neutrals at all back then, and also I didn't like the two shimmers that were in that palette. I felt like they were very just kind of chunky and hard to work with. This is so pretty. I still love this color so, so much. I love a good teal eyeshadow. I feel like they're very underrated. It's going on the eye super nicely. I don't think I want to wing this out too much. I'm gonna keep it mostly round, but I do want to just have a little bit of a flick here because I just cannot help myself. Not sure yet what I want to do under my eyes, so I'm just gonna keep my options open. I'm next gonna take my BK Beauty A504 brush, and I'm gonna use the shade called Mighty Roar, which is the very, very dark brown in this. We're gonna see how this builds, and I do think that from swatching it, it's going to build quite nicely. I'm just going to start by packing it on where I want the most pigment, and then I will start blending it out. That's looking really nice so far. I really like the combination of these two colors. Yeah, I'm not having any issues at all building this on top of the teal. I think they're layering wonderfully. I'm gonna go ahead and connect this underneath my eye as well, and maybe just do this all the way across. I haven't quite decided. I might do one of the neutrals, like the oranges on the front, because they will match my sweater, and maybe that will make sense. I'm not really sure, but I think that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. This color is so pretty. Like, I really wish that the original Killer Purr palette had come out at a time where I was kind of more into those kind of colors, because I think I would enjoy it more. I feel like I didn't give that palette enough credit when it did come out, because the color story wasn't really something that I was into back then. But now I'm honestly so happy that they kind of redid this palette, because I love this now. I really love just how dark the shadow is. It's almost like it could lean black, but it has a little bit of just brown in it, obviously, and a little bit of like a plum undertone as well. I'm just gonna blend this a little bit. I don't want this to be too blended. So I don't feel like I'm crazy. I do feel like I like the formula a little bit more in this palette than I do in the other two. Again, I'm not sure if there is a difference, if it's just in my head, if it's just a color that I'm using, but I do feel like these are just a little bit more like opaque and a little richer in pigment, not quite as sheer, because they're looking really, really nice on the lids. I'm gonna take the tiniest amount of the shade called The Hunt and just put that right here, because I think that's going to somewhat make sense, at least when I'm done with the look. Just gonna put on some glitter primer before I do the shimmers. I'm just kind of doing those all over my lid here, and we'll see which shimmers I end up using. I think I'm gonna use the two that I said I was gonna use in the beginning, because those were kind of just calling my name. So I think I'm gonna start with this shade. I could definitely use it. Should I use these two instead? This one has more of a purple flip to it, which isn't really what I'm looking for. So I think I'm gonna take this one, which is called Draught. And I'm just gonna put that in the middle of my lid and blend it out. And then we'll use the more goldy greeny antique shade on the front portion. My only complaint, I think, with this color story is that I wish that there was a lighter shimmer, but story of my life. I'm always saying that about every palette, but honestly, I can just pull in my highlighting palette. It's totally fine. I don't need every palette to be a standalone, but just like if I had one critique, that would probably be the one thing that I feel like is missing. It's just some kind of an inner corner shade, but again, definitely doesn't have to be in every palette, and I can just pull in whatever I have in my collection that I already know I love. But this is a stunning shade. That looks so good. And I think this was a really nice addition in this palette, because it kind of just makes sense, especially having that teal matte in here. That was one of the things I feel like was kind of weird about the old palette, because the teal matte didn't feel like it really went with any of the shimmers, and it just sort of seemed a bit out of place, whereas now it totally makes sense. So I'm next gonna take the shade called Lioness, which, like I said, is the kind of goldy shade here. I need to just put a little bit of glitter primer on so it picks up better. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that on the front portion of my lid. That is super, super metallic. That is beautiful. Just gonna blend these two in together here and get a nice gradient between them, but honestly, they're kind of doing it on their own. They don't need much help to blend. Okay, those shimmers look incredible. And another thing that I also want to mention, not that I've really ever had problems with Menagerie shimmers creasing or anything in the past. I didn't have any creasing with any of the looks that I did, and they looked absolutely stunning all day. I'm just going back in with the dark matte here just to kind of finish up the edges and make sure that I blend the matte into the shimmer, but this looks so good. I'm just going to go ahead and finish up with this look. I think that's all I'm going to do with the shadows. I am going to do an inner corner highlight, but it won't be from this palette, so I'll just let you know what I use when I'm back. All right, the look is done, so sorry about that. To finish off, I put on some lashes. I'm using the Divine Lights from House of Lashes. My blush today, if you're wondering, is the Butterfly blush from Benefit. I just wanted an orange, and I saw this in my kind of drawer where I store them, and I was like, I haven't used that in so long, so I pulled it out. Really like it. Just to finish off like everything else, I use the Enlightened shade in the Noctilucent palette because I just feel like it completes everything and I just love it. So I used it on my face, my brow bone, my inner corner, my nose. My lipstick today is from Ace Beauté and it's in the shade Sincere because I just wanted a brown. I thought that kind of just made sense with the look. And I also did some orange in my waterline. This is from About Face. It's in the shade Line Artist. So to sum up, I feel like you guys already know like what I'm gonna say here because I've said it throughout the video, but I think that I prefer the new Killer Purr palette over these two new palettes, even though these are freaking adorable and I love the theming, I love the color stories, but I just feel like there's something about the formulas in these palettes that don't feel as good as some of the other palettes I have from Menagerie, and I don't know why that is. Like I said, I don't know if it's like the round pans or what it is. Maybe I just had bad luck with the shades that I used and I just didn't have the best time with them. I don't know. And it makes me a little sad because I wanted to like these a little bit more than I do. I do think that there are shades in both of these palettes that are absolutely stunning, but like overall, I wouldn't say that I love any of them, but I do really, really like this and I'm excited to play more with this. I had a great time with this today and I really like the look that came out of it. I feel like it's maybe a little bit unexpected and not something that I thought I would end up with when I opened this palette and I went to do a look with it, but I really enjoy it. I think it looks really nice. I think it matches with my sweater today, which is also kind of nice. So I guess those are going to be my thoughts. I think that's really all I gotta say. I'm pretty sure these are available still if you are interested. I will link them down below. I don't think anybody has a discount code with Menagerie, just FYI if you were wondering if you wanted to save some money. I don't think you can. So that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more Menagerie content, I do have a playlist that I can put right there. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.